Hello and welcome back to the Local Government People's Program. This is Adam Spagnolo. I'm a candidate for the Osborne ward of the City of Stirling. The council elections, they are upon us. It is postal voting in the City of Stirling. If you haven't already received your postal voting documents, you should receive them very shortly. And if you've not received them by around about, say, the 3rd or the 4th of October, please call the City of Stirling or the WA Electoral Commission. Let them know that you believe that you are an eligible voter, and could they please send you the postal voting papers. I've got in the studio with me today Hammersley Ward candidate for the City of Stirling, Mr. Jack Garber. Jack is a regular attendee at the City of Stirling Council meetings. He also asks a lot of questions. He's been shut down a few times for asking some questions that get close to the bone, and obviously someone feels a little apprehensive and they just shut him down or turn his microphone off. But you know what, Jack, they do that to other people as well too, don't they?
They have, yeah. They've done it to other people.
It's not very fair. Look, Jack, I think we want to talk about something a little bit more refreshing at this point, and let's talk about canopies, tree canopies. Basically, as I understand it, there is a program in place to plant some 1 million trees sometime between now and the year 2021. Can you confirm that that's what you understand?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
All right.
It's a 1 million tree program and, on the part of the city, and it's generally well received. There's some question as to whether or not they're keeping up with the number of trees that are being cut down on private properties typically.
Yes.
And whether or not that 1 million trees is going to be enough, but nevertheless, it's an important program for the City of Stirling.
Look, I love trees. I'm very passionate about trees, and I do believe they need to be preserved. I mean, there are situations where they can't be preserved or can't be retained for whatever reason, but generally we need them. There needs to be an ecological balance out there, and for that reason we need to obviously be mindful that as urban development, sprawls, as infill development continues, obviously we're going to be losing a lot more of these trees. So, look, the 1 million program of tree planting is certainly something that's very much welcomed by the community. But again, I think we need to be very rational about where we put these trees and how we deal with them. I know that you're very passionate about tree canopies, Jack, and perhaps
I am, and I also note that I don't know if you know this or not, Adam, but in the city of Perth, they've actually plotted every tree in the city of Perth, and they've put a value on every tree in the city of Perth.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
No.
And it's a very interesting concept because it gives Perth Council an opportunity to make determinations at the time a development proposal is put before them as to what will happen with the tree canopies. But it also, let me bring this up. One of the things that I've mentioned in my platform is that we have an opportunity in the City of Stirling. It's a well-known fact that tourism and tourists, especially from the Asian countries, are increasingly interested in natural environments. Our ocean fronts become a major tourist attraction. Our parks and recreation areas can be exploited much further to encourage more tourism into the City of Stirling.
Yes.
Tourism brings in a fresh flow of cash and which is converted into capital and jobs into the City of Stirling, and we're not handling that very well at this particular time. So one of the things that I would like to do when elected is investigate the concept of encouraging more tourism, natural tourism, and encourage Asian communities and tourists to come into Stirling for that type of visit to our community.
Couldn't agree with you more there, Jack. It's very important. Look, every tourist is actually an ambassador because they come to this country, they look around, they look at the scenery, they look at the culture, and if they're happy, they go back to their own country and they say, hey, I've just gone to Australia, beautiful country, you should go and visit it. And, to the credit to your original country, Jack, people in America, I find, are very, very patriotic about their country, and they promote their country. I'm not saying that our people don't, but what I'm saying is we're a young country. We've got a lot to offer. Look at the southwest. Look at the northwest.
Yep.
We've got some very, very nice terrain, some very nice natural features. And we need to encourage people to come to Western Australia. We need to encourage people to encourage other people. And I think if we give them a good stay, give them a good experience when they're here, well, these people are going to be our best advocates. They're going to be our best advertisements.
It doesn't take bricks and mortars. It takes trees, open areas, beaches. Find natural communities in order to attract that tourism.
Yes. Jack, I just want to, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Not on that subject. On a couple other subjects, I have a few things I'd like to add.
Okay, well, perhaps you could introduce one of the subjects.
One of the issues that is one of my policies is we have too much red tape in the city of Stirling.
Yes.
My son is building a house in Bilga within the city limits of Stirling.
Good luck.
And he started that process and purchased a block more than a year ago. There was a demolition involved. Took time to get permits for the demolition. Took time to get permits for the building, for his new structure. By the time he moves into that property, he will have been into that land and a loan to buy the land almost 2 years.
Amazing. Well, you know what, Jack? That's one of the things that I'm also pushing for, and it's good that we're both like-minded in this regard. Faster approvals. Look, it does take too long for planning approvals, or what we call development approvals. Some builders have actually vetoed the City of Stirling. They've just said, no, we're not building in the City of Stirling anymore. And the reason why they're not doing that is because sometimes it takes 4 or 5 months before they actually get an approval. And do you know why that is, Jack? Because they go there, they take all the information, the staff go through a checklist, and then they write back if they find some inconsistency with the codes or with the planning rules, and they say, no, look, we've had a look at your application. As a result of us having a look, you've got to do A, B, and C, and then we'll approve it. These people go there, right, okay, they graciously take the documentation, go to their architectural designer. The architectural designer then, addresses the points that have been raised by council. What happens from there is they make a resubmission, and the City of Stirling said, oh, that's great, well done, but now that you've done this, we need you to do C, D, E, and F. And it just goes on and on.
Right.
Get it right the first time,
Right.
and then we won't have these issues. Like I say, there are a lot of people that have moved to other local authorities. I spoke to a builder yesterday. He built 7 apartments, and he said, you know what, Adam, I'm not ever going to be building back in the City of Stirling. He said, it took me 6 months to get my application through, and he said, and I had so many headaches in the course of construction. I bumped into somebody else, and they said to me, you know what, Adam? He said to me, I've been involved in the City of Stirling as a ratepayer for about 30 years. He said, in the last 7 or 8 years, I've had 3 issues with the City of Stirling, and I've had to fight with them on every one of them.
Yeah.
Nothing was easy.
Right.
But look, getting back to the substantive, faster approvals, I'm all about fast tracking. I'm all about cutting red tape, just like you are, Jack.
Well, look, we have some older communities. A revitalization of those communities and a new investment in those communities is essential. First of all, it brings young families back into those communities, fills our schools back up with students, gives a new bright economy to an area that might otherwise be running slow.
Yeah, I agree.
So absolutely, we have to make a change there, Adam.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Tom?
Going to another item if I can.
Yes, please.
Thanks.
That's what this program is all about.
Thanks a lot. One of the other things that concerns me greatly is whether or not the sporting clubs are actually getting a fair share of the.
Some of them are. Depends on who they know by the sound of things. Yeah.
Well, we have to take a look at equalizing that share.
100%.
And we also have to take a look at supporting those clubs a little better economically. We have fat in our budget. We both know that,
Yes.
and there's
We've
nothing.
done our research.
Yeah, there's nothing any better for our community than to get our youth involved in young sporting clubs. It solves issues with regard to their health, their obesity. It brings them together with a sense of being, brings them together in a sense of community and camaraderie, and it's an item that we're not concentrating on very well within the city of Sterling presently.
No, 100% there, Jack. And look, I think I made this point earlier in the program, and that is that what usually happens is a lot of these club boards, a lot of these club directors, they're just volunteers, Jack. And
That's right.
a lot of them are very proactive, and they get out there and they do so much for their club, and then they apply for some sort of concession for a light, or they apply for an extension to the building, and they're given such a hard time. Oh, look, we've already given you $1,000, or we've already done this for you, or we've mowed the lawn for you, or we've done something.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works. You don't penalise clubs just because they've been proactive and they've got to a certain stage or they've got a certain amount of money. If you're giving $100 to one club, you should be giving $100 to every club.
Yeah.
And if they do anything more, you know what? It's a bonus for them.
Right. And that investment in our youth and seniors, it will pay off in spades in the future, keeping those people, keeping those individuals within the community, teaching them a sense of pride within the community itself.
So. I think that you're right. It's good for their health, juniors and seniors. I think the other thing, and let's be honest here, it actually keeps our young fellows off the streets.
Right.
It gives them a sense of well-being. It gives them a sense of direction, and it gives them a sense of belonging. And that's really the key. We've got to help our young people. I mean, you go out there, Jack, you know what's happening out there. It's not a pleasant sight in some areas. And I think that if we gave our young people a little more encouragement with more, making sport more accessible to them, making it more affordable through the clubs, I believe that junior sport and senior sport, as I've said on many occasions on this program, are our future champions and certainly our future athletes.
Absolutely. And I mean, it goes so far in development of families, in development of individuals,
Yep.
That it's something that we need to make further investment in.
Yep.
And it's just one of those other things that has not been handled well.
The family unit, we call it. Yes, yes. Now, Jack, there is a matter that I wanted to raise as well, and it concerns the emergency services levy. I know we've talked about rates before. We know that some people are still paying them off. We know that some people pay them in quarterly instalments. And we know that some people are struggling. And if you are struggling to pay your rates, please contact your local authority and let them know that you are having some difficulty. In fairness to the City of Sterling, and look, to my knowledge, every local authority, they're very fair when it comes to this sort of situation. If you are genuinely experiencing hardship, speak to your local authority, let them know the nature of your hardship, and I'm sure that they'll organise some form of plan whereby the pressure will be coming off and you'll be able to facilitate that.
Well, Adam, I'm going to surprise you.
Okay. Nothing surprises me than that, Jack.
Because a ratepayer contacted me who was being sued for his rates, owed some rates, and had a summons served on him to appear in court for $300. And prior to appearing in court, he actually indicated on his return form that he acknowledged the debt for $300. When that went back to magistrate's court, a judgment was entered against him.
Even though he had acknowledged,
and better than that,
paid,
he paid it.
And they still took the action.
Well, the judgment is entered because that's what a clerk, the registrar of the magistrate court would do, because they acknowledged the debt. When they brought it back up 3 years later, because he applied for a mobile phone and was denied credit for a mobile phone.
That's the usual process.
Yeah, it is, yeah. He called the City of Sterling, asked them to relieve, if they would set aside the judgment against him, because it had been paid a long time ago.
Paid, and he acknowledged the debt.
Acknowledged the debt. And City of Sterling said, we're not going to do that. And he was forced to bring another action in magistrate's court to set aside the default. When this came up, the City of Sterling brought up the fact that they had legal fees involved, or costs involved, not legal fees, but costs involved in collecting this $300, and that totaled another $300.
That's cheap.
The magistrate ordered the ratepayer to pay $150 of the $300 of costs in filing the action, and the ratepayer paid it on the spot, the $150 that was ordered by the magistrate. Within the 21-day appeal period, if you can believe this, the city has appealed the decision of the magistrate. I am not kidding. And this matter, over $150 against a ratepayer, is now in the district court for an appeal of the magistrate's decision.
On $150.
On $150.
You know, Jack, that really upsets me. And I say that sincerely and quite passionately. Look, the situation is this. We talked about the budget earlier. We talked about the surplus and reserve funds. And we talked about, you know, some of the red tape and so on. One of the things that really, really gets to me is, my understanding is that in the last 12 months, the City of Sterling has spent something like about $3 million in legal fees.
That's correct.
In the last 10 years, they've spent $14 million.
Why are we spending money against a ratepayer for $150? A decision by a magistrate over $150.
Yeah.
Why are we doing
public relations and all of this? Why can't an officer from the City of Sterling bring this person in when they know that it's getting to a critical point and say, look, we have an issue here. If you don't pay, we're going to take you to court. Then we need to find out why that person can't pay. Maybe they didn't have the capacity at the time. We don't know what goes on in people's lives. But to do that, and like, you've got to ask yourself, whoever is taking the action at the City of Sterling against this ratepayer through the district court, if that was their private dealing, would they take it to that degree? I don't think so. Would you agree with that, Jack?
Well, Adam, I find it just appalling. Yeah, and this type of culture and this treatment of our ratepayers for the benefit of a law firm has to stop. There'll be $6,000 in fees at minimum to bring this matter to a head at the district court.
You know, Jack, when I was on council previously, when these sorts of situations arose, honestly, we would sit down with people, we would talk to them, we would find out how we could help them, not how we could actually exacerbate the situation and make it worse. And this is exactly what's happening here. Look, I just want to move on to another item, and that's the emergency services levy. We haven't spoken about that today, have we? No. All right, the emergency services levy actually appears on people's rates. I started off with rates and then we kind of digressed to...
I'm sorry,
no,
I jumped track.
Well, that's good to know. But people
I just want
to know this sort of situation.
And look, this is another issue that involves fairness and equality among our ratepayers.
Yeah, that's right. The emergency services levy appears on people's rates. We mentioned that people have received their rates. Some people may have paid them. Some people may still be paying them off. But on your rate bill, you'll notice that you have what they call an emergency services levy. Now, one of the recent programs, I was quite privileged and honoured to have here the president of the West Australian Local Government Association, Lynn Craigie. And I discussed this very point about the emergency services levy. Now, Lynn was very passionate about this particular levy. She made the point that it was a state government charge, which a lot of people probably don't know, and that there has been a lot of question, or there have been a lot of questions asked about the emergency services levy on the basis that the emergency services levy, A, is a state charge. It appears on your rate notice, and most people think that it's a City of Sterling or whatever your local council might be, it's part of your rates. The actual local authority is the collector, but it goes further. One of the questions that's being raised is, why are people being charged anyway this emergency services levy? Do you know, Jack, if you don't have cover and I've got to call an ambulance for you, You know how much it's going to cost you for the ride? $800.
Yes, I'm aware
If
of
you
that.
call the fire brigade and there's an issue and it's a false alarm or whatever, I understand they have the power to charge you for that particular call out as well. So the question has arisen, this money that we pay for is not accounted for. We need to know where this money is going. And I'm so pleased to hear that the West Australian Local Government Association is pursuing this point, and I will certainly be monitoring the situation, because I believe that if ratepayers are paying this money, albeit that it's a state fee, they need to have accountability as to where this money's being
Absolutely.
Because, you know, if you're paying $800 for an ambulance ride and you're paying $500 for a fire brigade call out, and they're getting all this money as well, you've got to ask the question, where is the money going?
Right. Well, certainly we should see that some of those funds are supporting St. John's ambulance for the situation where they're not getting paid.
And that's fine. But, you know, that's the way it works as far as I'm concerned. All right. Well, look, we'll be back very shortly with more local government, people's program. But before I go, we're going to talk very, very shortly about the campaign for Jack Garber and the campaign for Adam Spagnolo, and we will be seeking your support.